problem with the historical timeline. So I'm going to whiz you through a quick 101 of local Indian historical history. So there was a king called Ashoka, who I imagine could have looked like Mr. Castle. And he reigned from 273 BC to around 232. So he had quite a short reign. So considering he is like in history, he's the guy that's linked with these caves, he didn't reign for that long. And again, they take forever to make. So there are inscriptions in the cave. So they are completely void of inscriptions, apart from some of the caves have some inscriptions, some have none, and some have multiple. So, but the first cave that we look at in history is called, they have different cave names today as they did in the past. This called Nagroda was given to the Ajavikas by King Priyasardhan, who is also Ashoka, he has two names, when he was anointed for his 12th year of reign. So he gave them to, and the Ajavikas, they weren't like other royals or anything, they were literally like the common folk, the peasants. He was gifting them the cave when he got to 12 years as king. So therefore, they assume that's why they get it takes 12 years to make a cave. Well, also the stonemasons say that that's a load of rubbish, it would take way more, but historically they're like about 12 years. And that's assuming that the first thing he did when he became king was like, right, I've got to build a cave to give to my people. And it means, so the Siddharma would have been commissioned immediately and finished in under 12 years, purely for the reason of just looking flash. Okay, but then this is where it gets all confusing. So Visvasopri, the cave, was also gifted in the 12th year, and even though it's unfinished, so why finish one? And that's Sudama, the like really, really cool one. And then you would also give one that's unfinished, you don't give gifts that are not finished. And then there are later caves that were finished, and they have no inscription, so technically they weren't donated. So why would you finish one and not gift it, and then gift one that's not ready? The other one, 7 years later, King Priyasardhan, Ashoka, Randall, came to Jafla when he was anointed for his 19th reign, and on this occasion he gave the cave to the Ajavikas. Again, they're not saying why he gave them at this point, they're just saying, woohoo, he did. Oh, and should notice as well that the inscription carvings themselves is very similar to what we see in Egypt. Like, they're not great. They're kind of, I look at them and I'm like, I could probably do that. Just give me a tool, I'll do it. They're not matching. And again, why would you not polish? If you can polish, they've shown that they can polish all these crazy curves and whatnot. Why would you not do the whole job and make everything nice and polished and precise? It's not precise work. Dasarata was either the son or the grandson who came after Ashoka, and so he is in history. He gifted 3 of the caves, so either he continued making them and gifting them, or he gifted caves that Ashoka had also made. So this cave was handed over to the respectable Ajavakas as a residence for the rainy season, as long as the moon and sun will last, which is a very long contract for living somewhere, and by Dasarata, beloved of the gods, as soon as he was installed. Which again means he didn't have time to make it, because just straight away the first thing he did, right, I'm going to give you a cave. Why? So then we start to have an idea of why. And I joke you not, this is historically why these caves were made. All that perfect precision, all that time, all that effort, all the incline, all of the precise stuff aligned to each other. Oh, it's because the common folk needed somewhere to go in the rainy season to put the goats and to put themselves. So in history, we have inside in the caves, we've got these little inscriptions. It's mentioned one other place. There are these pillars, these Ashoka pillars, which are these beautiful, polished pillars that apparently just turned up. Nobody really knows how or what they did, but there's a whole bunch of them turned up, and they were all originally smooth because some of them are still left smooth today, and some of them have inscriptions on. A bit like we have obelisks today in Egypt, where some of them are left completely smooth and some of them have inscriptions on. So there is an idea that maybe they arrived all plain and minimalist, and then later people decided to decorate them and write stuff on. And in the pillars, it mentions about Ashoka gifting the caves, but the pillars themselves seem to, again, pop up, and then they don't do polished pillars. Like, that's not a typical Indian pillar. So I don't know if the people making the pillars made the caves, but they seem to pop up and sort of disappear again into history. Now, the inscriptions on the Lomas Rishi one inside, they date to 700 years after Ashoka. So this kind of backs up, if we're going to go by looking into maybe this was added later on Lomas Rishi, potentially, and I think that's probably the case, that somebody was trying to repurpose the caves or make them look a bit more snazzy, and then they tried to inscribe it. But yeah, this was like nearly 1,000 years after even Ashoka, and I have a feeling the caves are way predate Ashoka. So there are other caves that are similar of style. This one's made of schist, but it didn't get the specs. Schist is different to granite. It's very hard to work with, and they didn't last. They kind of broke and shattered it. It's a very shattery rock. And the inscriptions in the schist ones, they date to post-Ashoka. They're, however, really weird. So the archaeologists, from India, the Indiologists, they will not consider or move the inscriptions. They say, no, the inscriptions of Barabar fundamentally date them to 260 BC because it says Ashoka's name, so obviously he made them. But it actually doesn't say he made them. It says that he gifted them. He gave, he gifted. It doesn't say he created, he designed, he constructed. It just said that he kind of passed them on, or that just Dasarata inherited. But the archaeologists are willing to wiggle the dates of these ones because it helps fill in the hole of where are the prototypes. Where's the linear line? If you look at the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 15 looks very different, and we have a strong line of going, okay, this development, or the development of the aeroplane. It's very clear what was the first one. They don't have prototypes, so the archaeologists are like, well, maybe the inscriptions on this one are, maybe we got that wrong, and so maybe these are the first ones. And then they tried it in schist, and then they moved to granite, and I was like, I have a feeling that they definitely tried to copy the granite ones in schist, and it didn't really work. But interesting that they were willing to move one side to fit the other narrative and not the other way around. Now, the sound, 34.4 hertz. So the guys went back. A quick little story. I was kind of involved in the pre-production of the documentary before I got to narrate it. They did invite me out to India, but I kind of chickened out of going because they told me the crazy stories of how it's so remote where Barabar is. There's no hotels, there was no restaurants. They had to sleep literally like in the back of some locals' animal barns. And there were so many mosquitoes at night that they slept with hoodies on and pulled them in, but in the morning their nose would have hundreds of mosquito bites. And they were like, yeah, do you want to come? I was like, do you know what? I'm fine. I'll wait for some Airbnbs to pop up and then I'll pop along. But yes, so I was a bit involved in the pre-production, and they said, right, so we've approached one of the best in France, one of the best sort of sound engineer tech companies. We want to get their equipment because we want to do this properly. The guys are really into doing it properly in the science and getting everything over the line with the mainstream if they can. And so they found this place in France, and they got quoted, I think it was about 15,000 euros for them to get the machines that they needed to do this. And then when the company found out that it was JN Films who make Builders of the Ancient Mysteries and sort of more alternative, unconventional history things, they retracted the offer and said, no, we don't want anything to do with this. And we were like, wait, what? Like, why would you not want to? Because surely you're going to be proving or disproving. But they were like, no, we don't want anything to do with alternate histories. So the guys had to crowdfund, and they did find the equipment, but they couldn't get it off the big guys. So they did loads of sound experiments in the caves, because on the one hand, it's the aesthetic and the polish that's amazing and incredible, and the maths and the volume. On the other hand, it's the sound of these caves, because they are almost unlike anything in the world. So they did over 100 balloon explosions with sound level meters. They found that 74.9, around 75 hertz, being in the center of the dome, the sound becomes highly amplified. And they found this because they accidentally blew up not one, but two Bose speakers. So it was also the most expensive experiment that they've ever done. They were playing they tried all different kinds of music. They did rock music, opera. They got shamans in there, and they experimented in everything. But the speakers literally blew up when it got to 75 hertz, and that happened twice. The caves make speech unintelligible. So if you're more than 50 centimeters away from someone, you can't hear what they're saying. They're not made for listening, for preaching, for speaking. It would be the worst place to live if you are gifting them to people. It's like a joke. Go and live in this lovely cave. Joke's on you, you can't speak to anyone. They combine both reverberation and resonance. And so yes, certain frequencies are amplified, and it's the polish and the symmetry and the shape. They all come together to create this sound phenomenon. So there's a reason why all of the walls are inclined. There's a reason why the ceilings are vaulted with the specific arcs. There's a reason why the polish helps direct the sound. Like this. They also discovered that there are particular points in the room. Oh no, I'll go back to that. But okay, just for a little bit of reference, Notre Dame has a reverb rate of 10 to 12 seconds. Like, Sudama has 62. And Vadatika has 72 seconds. That's, sorry, Notre Dame, not as cool. They also discovered that there is a specific point where it does all sort of filter together to get the most effect. And it is about 80 centimeters off the floor in the center of the curved ceilings, which is around head height. If you're the average size human and you're sitting down on the floor, it's going right in to your ears and your head. So that's when they started to think, okay, maybe there's something to do with, there's a functional point to these caves, and if all of it's not aesthetic that they're going for, it is function. Everything's got something to do with something. I had an idea. I was like, wait, guys, have you tried 5 people sitting down in 5 caves and playing a particular sound frequency, and then you can all talk to each other or something? They were like, no, we didn't try that. I was like, well, I should have gone. But I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, so if they're all connected, maybe it's like an ancient telephone system or an ancient Wi-Fi system, and you can all get to a certain frequency and just see the universe. But yeah. So far, again, they're trying to do everything absolutely by the book, and so they don't want to make claims what they don't know, but they say that 3 to 4 of the chambers they can confirm resonate. They are tuned, even though they are different shapes and volumes. They are tuned to resonate at 34.4 hertz. That seems to be the magic number, which again, it's like, yeah, the designers knew. They knew, and they used the same mathematical formula to create all these different shapes, and they knew that they could make Sudama with the 2 rooms resonate, at the end of the day, all resonate at 34.4, as well as Gopika, but completely different shapes.